What's happening, everyone? Welcome to the latest episode of Corner Table Talk. I'm your host, Brad Johnson. So I have been looking forward to this conversation for a while. Anyone who has lived in Los Angeles for any length of time more than likely is familiar with the last name Dulan. The family, beginning with the late Adolf Dulan, has been serving the city for close to 50 years. Initially, Adolf launched Hamburger City in 1975, and then followed by one of my favorite restaurants of all time, Aunt Kizzy's Back Porch in Marina Del Rey. I first became aware of the Dulan family when Adolf, endeavoring to meet other Black restaurateurs, introduced himself to me in New York City when I was working with Nick Ashford and Valerie Simpson at the restaurant in Cabaret 2020. And a few years later, I moved to Los Angeles. I was living in Marina Del Rey. Feeling a bit homesick, Aunt Kizzy's became my home away from home. Seeing Adolf on those visits and the warm greeting he and the staff always offered, along with the Dulan brand of authentic cooking, Southern cooking, meant the world to me as I acclimated to my new city. As a second-generation Black restaurateur and the close relationship that I had with my father, getting to know Adolf's son, Greg, who has operated Dulan's on Crenshaw since 1992, just deepened my appreciation for the bond that Greg and his dad enjoyed. I loved seeing them together, and every time it was just heartwarming. Sadly, Adolf passed in 2017, and I, along with about 800 other people, attended the service to honor him, and it was a really warm and special day, special service. So Dulan's on Crenshaw continues the tradition of serving some of the tastiest soul food in the country. Greg recently reopened Dulan's after an extensive renovation with upgrades to the building, which include a beer and wine license. I can't wait to stop by and have a little toast with my man, Greg. And he's got a brand new kitchen, an outdoor area, a to-go area. So Greg's put in some pretty significant work. We're going to discuss that a little bit. I know it was a long and trying process that he endured to reopen. In fact, Eater, LA writer, and James Beard nominee Mona Holmes wrote a fantastic feature detailing Greg's story to reopen Dulan. So we'll touch on that. And those of us who know Greg recognize his love for the community he serves and his commitment to providing jobs and just support, scholarships, to countless employees throughout his career. He's just really, an all-around outstanding guy. So he is also my friend, and it is a pleasure to welcome Greg Dulan to Corner Table Talk. What's happening, man?
Hey, I made it finally. I'm here. We've been talking about this for a long time, so it's great for it to actually be happening. So
Yeah,
thank you.
man. I'm happy to have you, brother. I want to jump in, and I want to congratulate you, brother. I just read that you received Father of the Year from the Unsung Fathers Committee, and as a dad myself, man, I can't think of anything that would be more rewarding. So I want to touch on that and see how you felt about that. But I also want to give congrats and a shout out to your son, Brett, who recently landed a job at the esteemed New York Times. So shout out, props to Brett. So tell me, Dad of the Year, how's that feel, man? What was that award about, Greg? And just tell me how that made you feel, man.
So I discovered that the correct title of the award was the Founders,
Ah,
which which meant that I received the award, and I was picked by the founder, Judge Maybelline, chose me to receive the Founders Award. And I tell you, there's no higher honor than this. And I wasn't familiar with the Huff Awards, unfortunately. But as I learned about it, I learned that how big it was. And I said, wow, this is really, really big. And so they reached out to me and said that I would be getting the award. They're very nice, accommodating. The award ceremony is held in Long Beach every year at a beautiful hotel, the Hyatt Hotel. 600 to 800 people attend. Most of them, a lot of them I knew or had served in our restaurants. And it was just amazing to receive a community award. You know, when you're honored by your community, there is no higher honor. And it really felt, it was an amazing feeling for sure.
Yeah. Congratulations, man, on that. So, speaking of your dad again, impossible to talk to you for me and not, bring up Adolf and the legacy, that he left. And I don't even want to speak of him in past terms because I still, just have such affection for him. And as a newcomer to LA, Greg, he made me feel so welcome, man. And, I was in business with my dad, and I know that, on the surface, folks see you in the room and, it looks like everything's fine. But, father son relationships can also come with complications. Um, Give us a snapshot, man, into your relationship with your dad.
Well, first of all, my dad loved you, as you know, and he really respected and admired you. And that's why he wanted me to meet you. And I'm so happy that we got a chance to meet, become friends over the years. But my relationship with my dad was, you know, it was a great relationship. From time to time we had our misagreements, but for the most part, I was a son who always looked up to his dad. I always admired my dad. I always wanted to be like my dad. And he was just the kindest, uh, just open heart, just an open heart, would do anything for anybody. He loved his family. He loved his children. And, he taught me how to be a dad. Uh, and, he was just a great guy. And, so, you know, we just had a great relationship, and we would talk and I would listen. He would talk and I would listen. And I sucked up all the knowledge that I could. A lot of things I do today, I learned from him. Um, and, you know, I'm not perfect. We're not perfect. He wasn't perfect, but we do what we do with love in our heart and with the best interests of the people that we encounter. We try we try to be good people. He was a humble man. He was down to earth, uh, could walk with kings and still had and never lost the common touch.
Mm.
And these are just, he was just a great person. And you mentioned his repast where over 800 people attended. Uh, Believe me, as a family, we were blown away at the number of people that showed up to say goodbye to our dad. So that was a true testament as to the type of person that he was. And you have to wonder, what type of person do you have to be? And what type of life did you have to live to fill a church with close to 1,000 people at your passing?
That's right.
That's the mark of a remarkable human being.
Yeah. No question, Greg. No question, man. And I've been reflecting on my time with my dad. I lost my dad in 2007, and in reflecting on what I learned from him, business wise, as a man, as a son, as now as a father. And I tell you, man, time spent together is just invaluable, right? The lessons you get through the verbal lessons that they offer, the observation that you just sit there and you observe them and learn how, to interact, how to, my father was such an eloquent speaker, and
Yeah.
would never let me get away with and what. It was always, excuse
Yeah.
me, But your father, man, strikes me as both he's quotable. He's got some great quotes, and I'll touch on one of those that cracked me up a little bit. But I'm just curious, man, what your takeaway is on the observational part and the time spent, and how that influences you as a dad now.
Well, that's an excellent question. And from an observational point of view, there's just a couple of things that I'll share. Um, he loved his family, and that and I'm not just talking about his children. I'm talking about any Dulan. If you are a Dulan, if you were a Dulan, if you were in his presence, he would give you the world. And he talked about family and how important it is for families to stick together and to help one another and to work together. And that's something that he believed to his soul. And, he, sometimes, with 5 kids, somebody might need help with this or help with that. And he was always the first one there to help. And, and he was just somebody you could always count on. And then the other observation is how he dealt with people. And I mean, Brad, you knew him. He didn't care who you were. He didn't care what you had. He was just nice to everybody. He was gracious. He was funny. He would crack jokes. He'd offer you a glass of champagne. And yeah, he was just, I think that's probably the best thing I learned from him was just, sometimes when you have a personality like that, like I do, things can bite you. And he got bitten, and like I do, but that's just who he was. And so I admired that about him uh, quite a bit.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, you definitely emulate him in all the right ways, Greg. So I want to turn to the process that you recently went through to reopen Doolan's. But before I torture you with that question or reliving that, tell me, man, you bought that property, Greg, which I always loved that, man. My father always said, man, whatever you do, make sure you just buy the real estate. And I can't tell you how much money I've spent on renovating other people's properties to my financial detriment. But what led to that decision initially, Greg, to buy that property, man? What was that process?
It was an accident, actually. I started my catering business back in the '80s, and initially I was catering out of our restaurant in Marina Del Rey on Kizzy's back porch. The problem, however, was that I couldn't get in to prepare my catering menus and events until after the restaurant closed. And so on Kizzy's would close at 9 or 10 o'clock at night. I would go in at 11 and I worked all night. After a few times doing that, I said, this isn't going to work. And so I found a kitchen on Jefferson and Crenshaw that was for rent, and and I rented that kitchen for a couple of years. And then one day, the guy who was sub-renting to me was being uh, something happened, but he told me I had to leave, and he only gave me 30 days to do it. It was really cold the way he did it. But as luck would have it, the location where I'm now located was available. It was a restaurant that operated in the '60s under the name Streak of Lane, and it had been dormant for quite some time. And the owner of the property was a woman by the name of Willa Brokenbow, and she at the time was a big caterer, and she used to cater to military bases. That was her niche. And she would feed recruits coming into the military. And she had these huge military contracts. And so the location of Crenshaw, she wasn't using as much. And so she leased me the kitchen, rented me the kitchen at a very reasonable rate. And so I was there for a year. And Mrs. Brokenbow at the time was in her late 60s, early 70s. And one day she came to me and she said, Mr. Greg, I want you to buy the property. I said, what? I said, yeah. And she said, you know what? I'm going to lend you the money to do it. So she lent me the money to buy the property from her. She gave me a year, and I got the financing I needed. My dad helped me. I got some other money, and then I worked my butt off, and I was able to pay her loan off, which was a six-figure loan. I paid it off in a year, and she was very, very impressed. And I've owned the property ever since. And I can't tell you the advantages of owning it. I cannot tell you what that has meant for me. It's I couldn't have done the renovation that I did without that. So it has helped me over the years, and it has also caused me to stay where I am. And so, I own the property, I've been a fixture here on Crenshaw since the 1980s. And so, you know, I've seen the changes over the decades, from the Rodney King riots, when I witnessed buildings burning around me, to the Renaissance and the renovation and the gentrification and the train and Destination Crenshaw and all the beautiful things that you see happening now. I've witnessed all of that, and that's a very unique perspective. Uh, to, to and it's very rare. It's very rare, but and so that's a very unique perspective that I really appreciate.
Well, let's stay on that for a second, Greg, before I turn to your renovation. How do you feel about when you look around the community and you see the gentrification, you see the train? Obviously, there's a lot of improvement. That's got to be great for property owners, homeowners. But there's also the word gentrification. Is not always received so well. But what's your view on what's happened around you since you've been there for so long and seen all of that?
Well, things have gotten a lot better, and I think it's very positive for the community. For s- decades, this part of Los Angeles was not really thought about as it relates to, uh, investment, development. Um, we did not participate in the tourism economy, pretty much. Um, you know, in the early days, people were scared to come to this part of town, and it had a very negative, South Central Los Angeles, and a lot of drive-bys and a lot of negative uh, aspects to the community. And so I've seen it change, and I've actually witnessed that change. I'm old enough to witness that change, and it's a very different feeling and a very different vibe, and very different uh, um, neighborhood. It was a menacing, dangerous place, and now it's become a place where you can, walk your dog and you know, ride your bike, and you know, we're still not there yet. We're still underserved as it relates to restaurants and different types of amenities that are commonplace in other parts of the city, but we're getting there.
Mhm.
It's taken a while, but we're getting there, and I'm just happy that I'm still here because again, it's rare for a small business like mine to survive, thrive, and participate in this process.
That's right.
With the renovation that I've done, I'm actually a participant in the process, and that's rare. Typically, when that process starts, people like me and businesses like mine are swept away and replaced by something new.
Mhm.
Well, I have something new, but I built it.
Right.
So,
Right.
so that's a little unique.
Well, let's go into that a little bit, Greg. So, what precipitated the motivation? We'll say I think you started the process in 2018, and if I'm correct, and you opened, I think, just this year or towards the end of 23. But so, what was the motivation behind deciding that it was time for the extent of the renovations that you did?
The motivation was I was approached by the city um, council district, 8th council district, about a facade improvement grant. And I didn't really know what it was. It turned out to be a potentially large grant. And it was the motivating factor. However, I explained to the grant provider or the city that it didn't make sense for me to do this beautiful facade. And I got a 1950s kitchen. My restaurants weren't even handicap accessible. They were 1950s. All the infrastructure in this neighborhood are, 1950s old buildings. And so, um, you know, if I'm going to do the facade, then I need to do the interior as well, so that it all works together, because I don't want to have people coming in and then I can't serve them because I don't have the capacity
Right.
to serve them. And so, um, you know, that, that's what, that's what motivated me to do the entire renovation as it exists, today.
Gotcha. And then I know that I think it was last year, 2023, you were nearing, the finish line, and then someone breaks into the building and steals some equipment. And I remember looking at your Facebook page when that was announced, and just the protest from the community, and just how incensed everyone was that anyone would dare break into Dulan's. But that had to just leave you a little raw, man, and like, just
You
how'd you
know,
feel?
you know, I when it happened, I went back to a story that I've told many times. And when I was a teenager working in the family hamburger stand, uh, one day, we had a dispute with a customer. And in those days, like I said, the neighborhoods around here were really rough, very, very rough. And this was our hamburger stand, located in the neighborhood. At that time, it was called the Jungle. It's called Baldwin Village now, I believe. And so the customer got so agitated that he picked up a trash can on the outside, and we had this big window where we would make the hamburgers in front of the customers. And he threw this trash can through the window, literally came into into the hamburger stand. And it was horrible. Um, and my dad wasn't there at the time. And we called my dad, told him what happened. We started cleaning up. My dad came to the restaurant, Brad came to the hamburger stand. He started sweeping up the glass. He got on the phone. He called a glass company. He got everything cleaned up. Glass company was there about 4 hours later. They put in a new glass, cleaned everything up, and we were open that night.
Wow.
I will never forget, and it always makes me emotional every time I tell this story. But when he was sweeping up the glass, I was like, "Dad, what are you doing?" And he looked at me and he said, "Son, the business must go on. The business must go on." Because what I didn't know, or what I wasn't thinking about was, he had a family. This was his source of income.
Hmm.
That was the true entrepreneurial spirit. And so when I got burglarized, it really didn't faze me. I mean, I took a hit financially, but I went back to that day, standing as a teenager, looking in my father's face, seeing the determination as he swept up that glass. And when that happened to me, I had already been there. I'd already seen it. And so it didn't impact me as much as some of my Facebook, uh,
Oh, yeah.
because I just said the business must go
So
on,
let's go on.
and I'm going to sweep up this glass, and I'm going to keep going. And that's what we did.
That's
So,
beautiful, Greg. It reminds me of when the summer of '77, my dad had a place in New York called the Cellar, where like you, started as a teenager,
I,
and
I went, I went there.
yeah,
Go ahead.
and we had a blackout the summer of '70s. There was a heat wave in July, and we had a blackout. It's the famous blackout of '77. And
Yeah.
there was, a lot of talk about all the looting that was going to happen because it was an overnight blackout. and we had to close the restaurant at like 9 or 10 o'clock, and people paid their checks. In the old days, there was no computers, so we could still ring up the checks. So my father told me to go get my car and pull my car up on the sidewalk in front of the restaurant. And he said we're going to sit here all night. We had a baseball bat in the back, no gun, but a baseball bat. And every time we saw, figures dart by on the street, we would blink our lights, to make sure that they knew that we were there. And, a couple of stores, black-owned stores in the neighborhoods got ransacked, and we were fine. But I tell you, Greg, the feeling that I got of admiration for my father and that night, man, of his desire to protect his business,
Yeah.
that story that you told just resonated with me in that way, man. I remember, that feeling. I was so proud of him that it meant
Yeah.
that much that we were gonna, and I was like, yeah, we're gonna sit here all night. It was a warm moment.
Yeah. We were reopened as if nothing had happened.
Right, right.
You wouldn't The customers that came that night would have never known what happened earlier in the
Yeah,
day.
I love that, man. And
So,
Adolf sweeping, of course. Yeah,
yes, he was, I mean, in those days, he was hands-on,
yeah,
in business,
yeah. So
So,
going back to the piece that Mona wrote, it's a very funny quote, man. Your dad, uh, she asked you the question. So, Greg, what would Adolf say about this beautiful renovation that you've done? And your quote was, "Boy, you spent too much money."
oh my God, he would have, I couldn't do it. I wouldn't been able to do this if he were alive. He would have just said, "You crazy."
You're crazy. Yeah. What
And he's
investment in your own.
probably right. Yeah, probably right, uh, but I wanted to make a statement. I wanted to make a statement that says our communities are worth investing in. I wanted to make the statement that it's okay for us to be the ones doing the investing and opening these businesses and hiring the folks from the neighborhood and creating jobs and giving hope and being mentors and inspiring and being good people and being good citizens, being a good citizen in the city of Los Angeles. And this restaurant will be here long after I'm gone. So whereas it may have cost me more than my father thinks it should have, I think over the long term, it's going to benefit the Crenshaw community in the city of Los Angeles for many, many decades.
Yeah, no doubt, man, no doubt. So I want to turn to your James Beard nomination actually as a finalist for outstanding restaurateur. And you talk about the well, I'll allude to the slow pace of recognition that we as Black restaurateurs, waited for the media to catch up. We opened Post and Beam, Greg, in 2012, and LA Magazine did a kind of an overview map of Los Angeles the year that we opened from downtown to Manhattan Beach. Do you know they did a flyover of South Los Angeles? There wasn't
Oh, I
one restaurant that they felt was worthy of a place on that map in 2012.
I've been living it for decades
Yeah,
and talking about it and complaining about it. And it's almost if, we don't exist or that, we're not here. And, that's part of what I was talking about, uh, for many, many decades running my business here, it's like this part of the city didn't exist.
right.
And they've gotten a lot better. Los Angeles Magazine has gotten a lot better. LA, Eater is doing a tremendous job. The LA Times is doing just a tremendous job of reaching out and making connections. I
Mm,
mean, they actually know you, they know me, they know us,
right,
and so we've come a long, long way. But for quite a few decades, we didn't exist.
right. So on that
Our,
note, though, Greg, you get nominated for this award, and you're a finalist. I mean, I saw you in Chicago. I was rooting
yeah,
for you. You had the whole city behind you. You didn't get
yeah.
the win that year, but you were right there. What did that mean to you, man? Did it really sink in that you had finally received that recognition, man, that we all fight for?
man, I was like, what am I doing here? I'm not supposed to be here. I mean, it, I, it was amazing. It was, the pride. I can't tell you much pride. The outstanding restaurant tour category is someone who is nominated in that category, because of the community give back and, that they use their business, uh, and their resources to give and facilitate and to give back to the community. And I do that. And so to be recognized on a national, uh, level like that was amazing. It was just amazing. And, again, I saw you in Chicago, was great. And the red carpet was amazing. I mean, the carpet, I mean, that was amazing. My children were with me. That was amazing. And, representing the city of Los Angeles was very, very amazing. But just, I had, I felt like I was representing my city. You know what I mean?
Absolutely.
So there was a lot of pride as far as that was concerned. I was prideful to be able to tell the mayor of Los Angeles, Mayor Karen Bass, that I had been nominated and I was a finalist, and I was going to Chicago to represent the city of Los Angeles in this category. And that was amazing. So, you know, um, I didn't win, but now I want to win. That's
I tell you, man, Greg, I couldn't have been more proud, man, that it was you, and you still won. You're winning. Um, I wanted to ask you. So anytime people would ask me throughout my career, oh, what do you? So I'm in the restaurant business. That's what I do. Oh man, that's a hard business. That's such a tough business. And it never really. I knew the work could be difficult and the hours could be long and late, but I never really thought of it as a hard business. I got so much out of it, man. It gave me so much more than I felt it took from me. But I'm curious, what's your take on that? Give me your take on your passion for the business and the experiences that you create for the community, man.
and when they say you're in the restaurant business, it's like, oh, it's like almost like you have cancer or something. You know, I, you know, man, I love what I do. To the depths of my soul, I love what I do. I wake up every day, every single day, excited to come to work. Um, the interaction with the customers and the community is such a rewarding feeling because you know that you're making a difference. You know that you're doing something positive, and the things that people say, particularly since I reopened, we're so proud of you. Thank you for reopening. This is what the community needed. The place is so beautiful. All those types of things. Let me know that even though the sacrifice was great, that it was worthwhile, and I did something good. And I love the interaction with the customers. I love supporting my city. And every city, and I always tell people this: every city needs, a great soul food restaurant, two or three, or and we have two or three, unfortunately. And soul food is important because people travel and they want soul food when they visit a city. But it's the type of food that brings people together. It's comfort food. Most Americans, doesn't matter the ethnic background, are familiar with soul food and they love it. Soul food gets people excited. They get excited when they know they're going to eat soul food because they know the food is going to be good. And I can't tell you how much I love. I love what I do.
Yeah,
Um, it's not work to me. It's not work to me at all. It's not work.
I feel that, brother. It's
Yeah.
very funny, man. You must have known my next question because you kind of answered it, but I'm going to ask it anyway to see if there's anything deeper I can get you to come up with. What does soul food mean to you?
Soul food. So I look at it this way. So soul food, first of all, is a traditional set of food or dishes that African Americans have eaten over the generations. The recipes are passed down from generation to generation. And this is the food that we as African Americans identify with. that sort of brings us together as a national body or ethnic group, I guess, in the country. We all know what it is, whether we're in Massachusetts or in Las Vegas. We all know what soul food is. We know we can recite the menu by heart. And that's because we all came out of the South. We all came out of the same place. And that was the food that our ancestors ate and cooked. And when they left the South during the Great Migration, they brought those recipes and methods of cooking and methods of seasoning with them and took those recipes and things throughout the country, all over the United States, which exposed everybody to soul food. And so it, 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 uh, it's a cultural thing, cuisine and pride. And then soul food is food that brings people together, man. It just brings people together. Uh, Traditionally, there's a variation of soul food you could say that people eat during the holidays. You know, they eat yams, they eat green beans, they eat mac and cheese, which are staples on a soul food menu. And so everybody's familiar with those types of things. And it's just food that makes you feel good. It just makes you go, this is good. Your lips are smacking and it's just, it's a beautiful thing, beautiful contribution.
Yeah, man. We're winding down. I got a couple of other things to touch on here, and going back to something that I read that your dad had said that as you're describing the food, and you got this beautiful picture of fried chicken behind you, which is driving me crazy because I'm really jonesing for it. But you guys have always been known, Greg, for ample portions, and I know that, as we deal more and more with health concerns and people portioning out their food, but Dulan's has always been known to give the community ample portions and at fair prices, at reasonable prices, as difficult as that gets, these days with higher food costs and occupancy costs and labor costs and what have you. But your dad said something really interesting, man, that just stayed with me. He said he described it as a rebate to the community, which to me was, I mean, that's such a true Adolf kind of statement. He's giving so much anyway, and then he gives a little extra. So does that weave that into a little bit, man, and into how you see what role that restaurants play in our society and in our community?
Well, restaurants are typically the heart of any community. But what my dad actually used to say was we give our customers a rebate by putting extra food on their plate. And, you know, people are just looking for a daily meal. And if that meal can go a little bit further and feed, a little extra person in the family, then that's all the better. It was part of his marketing strategy, quite frankly. And he used to always say that by putting extra food on the customer's plate when they go home or when they're talking to their friends or whatever, they're gonna say, "Go down to Dulan's, man. They give you so much food, man. They give you so much food. Really? Yeah, I went. Yeah, look at this." And there's your marketing.
Right, right,
That's your marketing.
right.
So y- you're y- it's good food, it's extra food, but now your customer is doing your marketing for you. And, if the food is good and if the portions are good, they're going to always come back. They're going to keep coming back. They're going to keep coming back. And that has been the formula that we've operated under for 50 years. When we started the hamburger business in the 70s, back then he had the Hamburger City Special, burger and fries for $1. He did the first combo meal in America, I think. I don't know if that's true, but
We'll say
but
he did. Yeah.
yeah, burger and fries for $1.
Wow.
And, he was only paying me $2.13 an hour, so he could afford it. But and just imagine how many of those dollars you went through in an hour,
Yeah.
you know? if you have the capacity to, serve 500, 800 people an hour, I don't remember if we did. Yeah, sometime we did it. Well, yeah, you know, and if all those people are buying a drink, which is how McDonald's makes their money, then it is a profitable venture. It makes sense. And so he's always done that. There's always been his gimmick. He was a master marketer. He believed in face to face contact with the customers, which is something that I do to this day and I really enjoy. And, you know, and so it was a combination of giving back to the community, but also marketing the business at the same time.
Yeah, just sharp instincts. So wrapping up here, Greg, as a fellow restaurateur, I think that we deal with a lot of the issues that we read about, from healthcare to labor costs to food and what people are willing to pay, not willing to pay. The term frontline worker kind of became a thing during COVID. But I do think that as restaurateurs, man, we're face front with society and with culture. And I'm curious, man, with the country being so divided and the concerns and some of the troubles that we face. I'm a dad, you're a dad. Would you consider yourself an optimist? And if so, tell me what you feel good about and tell me what worries you the most.
I'm going to start with the last part of the question. And the restaurant industry is under a lot of pressure. I'm on the state board of the California Restaurant Association, so I associate with some of the top restaurant tours in the state, and everybody to a person is worried about the future of the restaurant industry in the state of California. We're under a lot of pressure as it relates to labor costs, as it relates to regulation and different laws and things like that. It just seems like we just can't catch a break. People assume that we're, all these rich, greedy business owners, and that, like we can give a little bit more here, we can give a little bit more there, and it's breaking us. And so I don't know what the future is going to hold for the restaurant industry and for me in particular, as things get more difficult and as different, the different laws and regulations get passed that impact us negatively. And so that's something that really concerns me. And quite frankly, sometimes it makes me wonder if I even want to continue in the business. But my optimism comes in as it relates to community and what we are contributing and what we're receiving. Uh, Great partnerships that we're developing with organizations like Destination Crenshaw and the City of Los Angeles, who's been helpful, and other types of organizations, and you know, just seeing the support. Oh, Brad, I mean, just the community just really comes out and supports us and the different organizations, GLAC and the Chambers of Commerce, and there's Delta Sigma Theta, Alpha Kappa Alpha, just, my fraternity, Alpha Phi Alpha, just the support that I receive and we receive from the community is what gives me my optimism, what gives me my faith, and what keeps me going. Because without them and without their support, I think I would have given up. They're the reason that I keep pushing, because they push me. They say, Greg, you're doing a great job. I say, I know, but it's hard. But keep going, Greg. Keep going. And so I said, okay, I'll keep going. And that's what keeps me going. Just the community love and support, that I receive and that we receive is probably what gives me my optimism and what gives me my joy.
Well, I want to say keep going, Greg, but I also want to say, you deserve to step off too a little bit. I want to see you take some of those extended vacations and explore and take some time, man, because you have given so much to the city, so much to the community. Your father is looking down and couldn't be more proud, man. You've turned out to be just a sensational guy, man. I'm proud to know you and proud of you, brother. Thank you.
And back at you. Thank you. You've been a great friend and a mentor. You've been a great mentor. And, we've had many one-on-ones. And one of the proudest photographs that I have that's on the wall of my restaurant is a picture of you on one side and my dad on the other side. I'm just listening to both of you guys, just sucking in all the knowledge. So I've been blessed to have people like you and my dad in my life. So thank you for all you do and all you've done, because I still consider you one of the best restaurateurs in America. I've told many people that. And so I have high praise for you, Brad.
Thank you, brother. I really appreciate that, man. It's very kind of you to say. Greg Dulan, I'll see you soon, man. Have a little mimosa on your new patio and walk to the backyard. I want to see the grounds.
Absolutely. I'll look for you. Thank you very much for having me. Appreciate it.
Pleasure, man. Yep.